This video is brought to you by The Other Way, personal sovereignty and safety. Stepping out of a terminal into a foreign city strips away your usual safety nets. You do not know the layout, you do not recognize the customs, and the daily routines that normally keep you grounded are completely gone. This plunges your brain into a high information state. Every sound, smell, and movement requires active processing, which rapidly overwhelms your senses and drains your energy. Faced with this sensory overload, the natural human default is to adopt a passive role. People naturally try to blend in by following the lead of locals and strangers, often doing whatever it takes to avoid a potential conflict. Following a crowd just to avoid feeling awkward allows an outside force to dictate your movements. At this point, you have traded your internal direction for a social approval you do not actually need. This leads to a dangerous vulnerability. The most hazardous trait you can exhibit abroad is extreme politeness to a stranger who is testing you. Data shows just how exploitable that politeness is. 70% of travelers will ignore their own intuition in a new city simply because they want to avoid appearing rude to a stranger. Scammers and predators rely on this exact hesitation. They initiate the interview by approaching with a small, unprompted favor or a simple question. These are probes designed to test your willingness to comply with their lead. If you have ever felt the uncomfortable, restrictive pressure of forcing yourself to be polite to a boundary-crossing stranger, hit the subscribe button. Staying engaged in that interview out of a sense of social etiquette means the scammer has already succeeded. You have handed over control of your physical space and your timeline to someone who is actively profiling you. To understand why people physically freeze and comply with these probes, we have to look past social rules and examine the chemical reactions happening inside the body. When you navigate an unknown environment, your brain processes unfamiliar stimuli as a potential threat. It forces your nervous system into a state of high alarm, running an exhausting, continuous scan for predators. This graph illustrates that alarm state. When your heart rate spikes, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for logic, loses 50% of its capacity. As logic fades, the body defaults to a survival reflex. Complying becomes the path of least resistance to end the stress. Biological panic is what leads rational people to make dangerous decisions. This physiological hijack prioritizes the relief of ending a social interaction over the long-term safety of the traveler. Every local population operates on a distinct, observable pattern of movement and interaction. This is the street's baseline rhythm. Predators do not look for wealth. They scan this baseline rhythm for anomalies. They are looking for people projecting the physical markers of biological alarm. In a crowded plaza, predators isolate a target in under 7 seconds, basing their choice entirely on a traveler's erratic movement and high-stress posture. Breaking the biological lock of the freeze response requires a deliberate, mechanical override. This is the purpose of the 3-minute clearing protocol taught by our sponsor, The Other Way. This manual reset bypasses adrenaline-induced tunnel vision, allowing a traveler to restore clarity and move with intention. Drop a like on this video if mastering your internal biology makes sense to you. Effectively perceiving and reacting to a threat depends on the state of your nervous system. Without a way to manage that biological alarm, a traveler remains trapped in a cycle of reactive stress. Once you achieve biological stability, you can apply tactical rules to your movement. The first is to own your pace. This involves stopping completely and placing your back against a wall to eliminate threats from behind. You reset your internal state before making any navigational decisions, rather than letting the speed of the city rush you. From this grounded state, you can enforce a second rule. End the interview. This is executed with a firm refusal followed by an immediate change in direction. You recognize that you have zero obligation to finish a conversation you did not start. Tell us in the comments about a time you had to firmly end an unwanted interview while traveling. Owning your pace and enforcing conversational boundaries breaks the predator's algorithm. It disrupts their targeting sequence by removing the passive markers they are looking for. True travel independence is about maintaining absolute authority over your own body and mind. It is a matter of internal control, rather than the gear you carry. A traveler who stays stable and observes the rhythm of the street becomes a hard target. They are in full, deliberate control of their own environment and their own timeline. Thank you for watching, and thanks to our sponsor, The Other Way, personal sovereignty and safety, for helping travelers stay safe and sovereign. Real safety is an active, moment-to-moment choice. It is achieved by mastering the internal self to navigate the external chaos.